Foundation Season 2 is becoming one of the best shows on TV at the moment, and it's definitely an underrated one. With the Mule being this figure that we were first introduced to in episode 2 of the most recent season, and with us knowing that he goes on to cause mass devastation, it left a lot of us viewers out there with time and excitement around theorizing if any existing characters could eventually go on to become him. So with the season finale of the show fast approaching, I thought I'd give my theories and predictions on why I think Tellem could be the Mule. So let's get into it. Here is Foundation Season 2, why Tellem could be the Mule. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers on Season 2 of Foundation. The Disagreement to the Foundation. We've only had a small section of the Mule so far in the show, and it was the small feature that we had in episode 2, where Gaal had her vision whilst on board the Beggar. Originally, Harry, Gaal and Salvor headed towards Ignis with the hopes of finding an uninhabited planet in which they could then lay down the foundations of the second foundation to be created. And Ignis had all of the perfect conditions for that. However, there was one major thing that they didn't expect, and this was that there were individuals called Mentalics which were inhabiting it and stood in their way and were led by Tellem. And she rules some kind of dictatorship where nobody's able to think freely. Despite the fact that they have telepathy and can read each other's minds, she's indoctrinating them all to believe that anybody other than a Mentalic should be viewed as somebody who's not welcome, and that they need to be destroyed. Exactly like what we saw happen with Harry in episode 6. This is due to the way that they were once treated on their home planets before Tellem rescued them. Tellem is against the creation of a second foundation, as she doesn't want to be the leader of a group of people or allow individuals to come in and pave the way of her kind so that in 150 years' time they'll need to sacrifice themselves in order to protect the people who once persecuted, punished and killed them for simply having the abilities that they had. So that is something which is set within her mindset, opposition to the Foundation, something which the Mule thinks too. However, if she does go on to become the Mule, then if you think about it, she'll be sacrificing all of the Mentalics and the civilization that she once cared about because she'll be looking to destroy it. Both Tellem and the Mule seem to share similar beliefs based off of the small feature that we had of him. So I think there's definitely the possibility that they could be the same based off of that. But my main reason is from what I think in the next section. The transferring of consciousness. Within episode 8 of the show, we saw Tellem reveal that she had actually had multiple carnations of herself, and the form that she was in now was not her first, but it was one of many. What she does is she tends to live a life, then once she gets to a period in her life where she gets sick or old, she goes through a ritualistic procedure in which she transfers the consciousness and powers of herself into another form, and then lives another 60 years or so in that shell before going through it all again, essentially allowing her to live on forever and be a reason as to why she could still be around in 150 years' time. I think this could be key to the way that Tellem eventually takes on the physical form and appearance of the Mule, as obviously, right now, they don't look anything alike. We last saw Tellem trying to take over the shell of Gaal and imprint herself into Gaal's physical form. However, with Salvor breaking out of the prison that she was being kept in, I think Salvor will interrupt it and stop the procedure from happening and find a way to either escape, go into hiding, or persuade the Mentalics to see through what Tellem had been teaching them and making them believe. This is something that I think will then in turn cause a divide in the Mentalic group, and some could end up siding with Gaal, or they could all end up being on her side. The Mule said to Gaal, "Where are your Mentalics?" So it showed us that in that moment there must have been at least some that were on the side of Gaal at that point in the future, which makes me think that Tellem could feel bitter about them choosing to side with Gaal instead of herself, their long-term leader. As well as that, inside of episode 8 of the show, there was a line that was spoken by Josiah when Salvor was inside of the tomb. He said to her, "Sighted don't kill other sighted." This to me is a sign of things that are to come. For example, the Mule goes on to kill sighted individuals, and I think that will be because Tellem will have drifted so far from what she originally stood for, and the belief system that she once held and tried to ingrain in people. In terms of how Tellem would go on to exhibit the same physical characteristics as the Mule that we saw in episode 2, I think this is something which ties into a previous theory that many of us were throwing around a couple of weeks back about Josiah potentially going on to become the Mule. I personally think that Tellem is going to take over Josiah and use his body as some kind of shell. The Mule is described as being some kind of mutant Mentalic, so surely the fact that he's his own person but with Tellem taking over his mind, it would tie into the mutant description. If I remember correctly, I remember seeing some type of scar on the mule's neck like Josiah's, but I think it was a blink and you'll miss it moment. I also think we've seen so much of Josiah in season 2 of the show for him to not have any kind of importance in the development of the season. He's the only other Mentalic outside of Tellem that we really know anything about. We barely know anything about Laron, and he probably falls just after Josiah. With us now being aware that the transferring of consciousness is possible, and with Josiah being one of the youngest individuals there, we could see Tellem look to utilize him for that specific reason. So technically, if this theory is correct, then everybody that guessed about Josiah being the mule would also be correct. However, there would just be that one little loophole that was definitely unpredictable before episode 8 of season 2, and that's the transferring of consciousness. The mule is the biggest threat to the Foundation, and what better motive for wanting to know the location of it and planning on destroying it is there than having a personal connection to the type of individuals that betrayed you and your own kind in order to support it. In terms of the time being around 150 years in the future, we did hear that Tellem could sense Gaal and was putting messages out there to her to get her to leave Synax and carry out the pathway that she followed. If at any point Gaal and Salvor were to enter cryosleep again, which one would imagine they would, especially seeing as though Gaal and Salvor looked the same age when Gaal had the vision with the mule in, what's to say that Tellem wouldn't be able to sense that and then go into some kind of cryosleep too, in order to ensure that she'd still be around to destroy the very thing that Gaal wanted to create. It's definitely an out there theory, but I think there are parts of it that could work, and it would be pretty cool to see happen in the show. Tellem definitely has evil intentions, and I'd love to see her, even if it's in the form of the mule, challenging Empire and also the Second Foundation. But I guess that's something that will come with time. Watch it not be any of these theories and it be somebody that we've not even been introduced to yet. The mule is a character that I think we're all extremely excited to see more of as the show develops forwards. Their identity and powers are one of the biggest things about them, but knowing just how strong they are and how important they are to the overarching story is something that I think will make its eventual reveal be something which will hopefully be worth it, whether it be in this season or the next. So, there you have it. Foundation Season 2, Why Tellem Could Be the Mule. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Who do you think will become the mule? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.